Welcome back to Ginger Kid Outdoors. It's the end of December. I was kind of hoping to do some coyote hunting, do a little bit of hunting out in the snow, but of course we had some snow, but that pretty much all went away because it's been 40 degrees over the past 3 days here, so everything is pretty much wet and muddy, and still a perfect opportunity to get out my M1A and compare it to the AR-10 and do a little bit of shooting with both of them and see which one of these two rifles has got less recoil, which one is more accurate than the other. So stay tuned. I'm going to go over both of these, and actually the M1A more than the AR-10. My Armalite here, I have at least 2 videos on that. So yeah, got the M1A out after 5 years of not touching it, and I guess stick around and we're going to see how it does. Okay, the first 5 rounds I fired out of my M1A here in probably 5 years. I've got the last 5 rounds of Black Hills 168 grain Sierra match hollow points. I forgot how much that thing digs into your collarbone when you're shooting it, especially in the prone position. Going to go down, take a look at the target. I haven't shot this rifle in quite a few years, so I want to check my zero before I go over to the Federal Premium 168 and the AAC 168 Sierra load up. So, okay, be back after that. Okay, so my cold bore first round was about 4 inches high at 200 yards. The remaining 4 rounds of the 5 Black Hills Armory ammunition were about 2 inches right by 2 inches high, so I adjusted approximately 1 MOA for 200 yards in windage and only 2 clicks for elevation. I'll mention why I only did the 2 clicks. This rifle at 200 yards is where I'm shooting. Now this optic is all set in meters, and the primary focus on the reticle is 200 meters. So I want to be about 2 inches, an inch high I should say, at 200 yards. So let's shoot 5 rounds of 168 grain AAC in the Sierra bullet. Uh-oh. There's a malfunction. Last round, bolt hold open. What I like to see. Okay, now with one failure to eject, it basically got caught by that operating rod. I do want to go back and look at some of the slow motion and see what the ejection pattern looks like. Looks like most of it is coming out and getting slammed by the front of the op rod and getting thrown forward at about the 1 o'clock from the ejection port. So I guess my slow motion, what I like running, we will see how this old tank is ejecting. Next, I'm going to switch over to the AR-10 so we can get some comparison using the exact same load out of a whole different platform, what the recoil is going to look like going from this one to the AR-10. Okay, I've got my Armalite AR-10 TAC18, and I've got 5 rounds of the 168 Sierra AAC loaded. Guess I gotta load it. Okay, no malfunctions. Everything seemed to cycle just fine. Flip my little bubble level back over. There you go. Okay, gonna reset back up. Gonna get the M1A back over, and I'm gonna shoot 5 rounds of Sierra gold. Well, I should say a federal gold medal match with a 168 grain Sierra hollow point. Okay. Okay. I'm not going to be shooting this. We are shooting 168 grain Sierra in federal gold medal match ammunition. 5 rounds are loaded up in the M1A. Not sure if that one actually... Nope. Weird. Huh. Apparently the old M1A doesn't want to lock open on last round anymore. So my magazines might be weak. I thought it was a failure in the ammunition, but clearly it's not the ammunition or the gun. Like usual, if you ever have issues with stuff, it's typically the magazines. Okay, I'm gonna switch over and get the Armalite back over. I've got 5 rounds loaded up now of the federal gold medal match in 168 grain. 5 rounds, no malfunctions. I think all of the brass is ejecting right between the two tripods that are set up between my slow motion camera and the camera I'm recording all of the regular video on. So I guess we'll go to the breakdown of the rifles now. So the first group that I shot with the Black Hills, where the M1A was dead center here. As I mentioned, the majority of the group was 2 inches off to the right hand side here and 2 inches high. Now the first group that I shot with the AAC out of the M1A, M1A stayed on this side of the paper and the AR-10 was over there. So my M1A, using that 168 grain AAC, had a decent group right here of, oh, probably here for sure is under an MOA. I had one that was a little high there, so I mean that's still probably just a hair over 1 MOA at 200 yards. And then that's just a massive group. Then I go down here to the Sierra. Well, I shouldn't call it Sierra, it's Federal Gold Medal. Here we got 2 rounds, 2 more, and another flyer way over there. That group there would have stayed within a not quite an MOA, but because of that opened it up to well over, probably close to 3 MOA on that one. But over here, shooting the AR-10, I'd say it's closer to being just outside of a 1 minute group there. What I should do is I'll take a picture of this when my phone recharges and be able to put up on, I'll have it up on the target. God, the words are complicated today. On my target here, in order to deduce what these different group sizes are. That is one nice thing I do like with the Ballistic X app, is it calculates what your adjustments need to be at the range and then what your group size is in MOA. So I guess I'll just take this with me to save me on walking back down here. Nothing like going to staple your target up and it's the last staples you got in your staple gun. Come on. Everything is getting really damp. It was a really foggy morning. Dense fog advisories. Haven't had any rain today, but we have more either rain or snow moving in between Monday and Tuesday, just in time for New Year's Eve. So yeah, that's pretty much par for the course here in Wisconsin. Like they said, if you don't like the weather, just wait 10 minutes. So I've already gone over my AR-10 in a previous AAC video I did on several different loads that I had. So this is, like I said, quick overview, an 18-inch AR-10 by Armalite. Now the interesting thing, both Armalite and Springfield both started out in Geneseo, Illinois. Armalite, of course, left. Now this one was manufactured in, let me check, Phoenix, Arizona, which now the rifles are manufactured in Texas somewhere. So they've been another change in plants since this one was manufactured. Hopefully that stays there. He's not gonna, okay. That damn Magpul bipod. Okay. Come over there and the M1A. 20 round magazine, of course, you know, rocks in and locks back. My bipod is apparently incredibly loose. Like I said, I haven't shot this rifle in at least 5 years. Now this is a Springfield Armory M1A. This rifle was purchased new about 25 years ago. Just to give you an idea as to how long ago that was, This is a National Match rifle. They don't even make a National Match rifle anymore. This has got a Douglas premium air gauged medium contour barrel on it, which is a 1 in 10 twist. Now everything is 1 in 11 for their mediums. The Douglas was last offered on the Super Match, so this has been so long ago that Douglas, the premium air gauge barrel, was a affordable option to put in a match rifle, which at that point the Super Matches were getting outfitted with either Schillen or Krieger barrels. Now the other interesting thing with this gun is it's got a gas selector up here. These were permanently tack welded in place because their actual the gas hole in them was hand reamed to the best optimal cycling with a 168 grain match projectile. This has got a glass bedded stock where the aluminum epoxy impregnated stock is glass bedded to the action, so it is a perfect wood to action fit from metal down to the wood. This also has a steel stock liner in it, which, yeah, you can't really see it from in there, but these little wheels you see on either side, that's where the stock liner actually attaches into it. Going back from there, it's still got a traditional gas piston operated system. They're going to call it a short stroke now. Originally it was a tappet system. It's got a small stainless steel tappet in there that acts back, and when it goes to cycle, it impacts onto the operating rod and then cycles the action back and forth. It does have a bolt hold open over here on this side, and of course the magazine release is just a push forward, very similar to the AK. In fact, the way you actually go to lock the magazine in is very similar to the AK pattern rifle. Now the front sight on this is a National Match width front sight with a National Match rear sight. The hood on the rear sight, I don't know if you can see that well with the scope, actually turns. It's got a V-notch on the top, and what that does is it gives you a half minute of adjustment for that rear sight for the elevation. It has half-minute windage adjustments and then a full minute adjustment, so you get that extra half just by rotating that rear hood. Going back from there, I've got a Torbond leather cheek piece on there that gives you pretty close to the proper height you need to run an optic on it. Now my optic mount, I'll be honest with you, I don't remember which one I put on there. I was looking at a Sadillac Enterprises and a Smith Enterprises. Both of them are steel mounts. I know the reason I went with this one is this one does not have the sight channel on it. It was the most rigid mount I could find at the time for the M1A. I started out with an aluminum mount by Springfield, and that was just a disaster. I couldn't get it to hold zero. It ended up shearing off the nuts on both where it screws into the action, and then the second one when it actually mounts up to the back of the stripper clip guide. So yeah, after that I went to the Sadillac. I have Leopold Mark IV rings holding on the scope. Those are steel rings. They are torqued down. I believe I got them torqued down to about 65 inch-pounds for the T-nuts on them. Now, the optic on here, as I mentioned, is all meters. I'll see if I can find an actual picture of the reticle in here, and I'll put that up over here. And what this reticle is it's a range finding system using a bracket. It is a first focal plane reticle. So this scope is 20 years old. It has a first focal plane reticle and a bubble level built into the actual optic. So when you're looking at your reticle, you're going to have an entire series of brackets that come off, I believe, both sides. Like I said, it's been a while since I used it. Yeah, 300 and 400 meters. You've got your brackets on both sides. The bottom bracket that comes down is for 36 inches. The top bracket has two small little squares on each side and forms up on a line. That is 24 inches. Each one of those two little brackets on the outside, those squares, if I'm remembering this correctly, are 3 inches and 3 inches. This is what kills me. All this is in inches, right? And then the actual meter for bullet drop compensation. For a 168 grain projectile, sped out, this 24-inch barrel is 2,550 feet per second. This is a specific scope on this rifle. I mean, they even have the BDC set up for a 22-inch barrel. So it's a very specific scope. It is a Springfield Armory 3rd generation 4x14x56. It's got a 30 millimeter main tube on it. The scope is actually manufactured by Heiko out of Japan. Like I said, they're not manufacturing the scope anymore, obviously, but the last time I checked, Heiko is still in business and manufacturing optics. So that is pretty cool that a company is still around that was doing basically a boutique product for Springfield Armory at the time. Now, when I got this scope, I got it through a loaded promotion that they had, because this was before they were doing like the loaded gear up promotions like we see with all the Springfield stuff. Back then, you had a sheet that came with your firearm, and then you filled out what you wanted, and you could buy it at their wholesale prices, the price that they sell it to the wholesaler for. So that was a great deal on that scope. That incredible POS aluminum mount was still like $100, which that was a waste of money. But otherwise, I got the scope on it, and then I got the Springfield Armory embossed leather sling for it. So kind of keeps it more original looking. There is a there were 2 spots up here. I don't know if they were like a vent system. What I did was I custom fitted a sling attachment point up here to be able to mount my bipod on. Again, this is before they had any like options to put anything up there for an M1A. So at that point, I was basically trying to jerry rig whatever I could find at a local gun store. When I bought this rifle about 25 years ago, the rifle was $1,500. Last time I looked at anything match related, they're like pushing $2,500, and that was probably 5 years ago. So definitely this is one of my rifles that has gonna appreciate in value. The stuff you can't see is the National Match trigger in here. This has got a 5-pound max pull, so you're looking at 2.5 for the first stage, 2 pounds for the second stage. Going over to my Geisley, I have in my AR-10, I've got a high-speed match Geisley set up for a DMR. That is just phenomenal for what like the trigger pull is, and it's even night and day difference going from that into this. I mean, this thing feels like you're pulling all day before the firearm finally breaks. And for the longest time, until I started getting into the Geisley triggers, this was probably one of the best triggers I had in any of my firearms. My ARs, this, now Savage has their Accu triggers. That is by far and away probably one of the best like trigger that's in a production rifle that I've found right now. So other than that, there's a little shoulder piece on the back of these wood stocks. You can put them up so you can let it on your shoulder. That was basically designed for a one-hand system, make it more operable for like one hand, so you can keep one fire and the other hand operating in a machine gun roll, which obviously these rifles in the M14 configuration did not perform the way they wanted them to. And a lot of the stuff they've basically gone to is they're saying it's pretty much an obsolete platform, which is kind of a sad thing, but there is some stuff you have to take into consideration. Match ammunition, you do not want to use match primers with the M1A. The floating firing pin and the amount of spring tension going forward can actually detonate primers when they're stripping them out of the magazine and getting ready to feed them into the action. And that's the worst place you want to actually have a round detonate, is halfway into the action. There's when I got this rifle, there was an actual pamphlet that came with it that specified not to ever use match primers on these, and actually had pictures of rifles that had exploded at the Camp Perry National Match. So that was a good way to pound home as to why you don't want to use any kind of a match primer. But again, the reticle is only geared up for 168 grain like round, so that's kind of why I backed away from using this a whole lot. A lot of my other optics are all MOA first focal plane, so you get a load worked up, you just use anything you want to. This is, as I mentioned, specific to that 168, and what I try to find is like my AAC there, and the Federal Premium Gold Medal, and then Black Hills was all around that 2650, which most velocities are basically set up with a 26-inch barrel, so knocking off 4 inches of barrel and then being an actual gas operating automatic weapon, then I'm going over to a 22, so I figure that's about 100 feet per second loss in velocity. So I'm hoping most of that tracks true and it stays on with that. Otherwise, I've had only a couple of malfunctions. Earlier on, I had my gas valve up here, that plug would actually start to work its way loose and start to siphon gas off, and that was creating a lot of cycling issues with it. But that was back probably 10 years ago, and I haven't had an issue with it. Like I said, I haven't shot it a whole lot over the past 5 years. This is probably maybe the second time, third time, maybe max, that I've had this thing out and shoot it. So it's kind of what happens when you start collecting more and more stuff. You don't really spend much time with the stuff you do, and you kind of concentrate more on your older stuff. So yep, that will pretty much conclude this video on my National Match M1A. I've seen a lot of videos out there on the M1A, the loaded model, but you don't see too much on the match guns just because they went away several years ago, and a lot of the people, which I'm assuming they went away because A, they don't have the gunsmiths to actually hand fit these rifles into the actions anymore, and the interest probably isn't there for any kind of a match gun, because I mean, when you can pick up an AR-15 for about $1,500, which they do quite well, I mean, it's kind of speaks for itself. So yeah, that will pretty much conclude my video, and I guess stick around and see what we bring next. So that's gonna basically be it for me for today. Oh, I guess I should say, the reason I got my white retro on here is this is a longer raincoat offered by Farmer Rain, of course. I like using any kind of rainwear when I'm shooting, just because like my pants are muddy, wet, the ground is muddy and wet, and the best thing that I've found for any of these kind of conditions is, I mean, it's not tactical, but if you can keep yourself dry, you're going to stay warmer, so you can actually enjoy more time outdoors than what you will if you're like your pants start getting soaked. You know, you get mud everywhere. You don't want to track mud in your vehicle. You don't want to track mud all around your house. So this is easy stuff where all it is a damp cloth to wipe it clean. Unfortunately, this material is fantastic in the cold. It's about 40 degrees out here right now, which for the end of December in Wisconsin, 40 degrees is just, there's something wrong. I mean, there's got to be some kind of an issue why it's still this warm. But I was kind of figuring when I was planning on doing this video I'd have snow, hence it'd be like more for like snow camo. But I've worn this all the way down to negative temperatures, and it still remains nice and like flexible, pliable. It doesn't make a whole lot of noise when you go to move around in it, which is nice. So I originally got this for like snow camo in the wintertime. Best thing, you can lay down on top of snow. If it melts because of your body heat, again, you're not going to get wet from it. So that's kind of a nice little option that I had for that. But I did find out from Farmer Rain that they are no longer going to go forward with this shiny white material because it does not sell, and as they mentioned, it gets dirty really easily, and a lot of people, I guess, have had issues with it, don't like trying to clean it or whatnot. So if you're interested in any kind of like a raincoat like this, go to farmerrain.com. So that will pretty much conclude this video. It's still asleep.